Welcome back to Random History, the podcast where we dig up the bizarre, the forgotten, and the downright weird stuff from the dusty archives of the past. I'm the navigator as we explore the little-known events and people that make history such an amazing subject. These are not the topics you would have heard about in school. In fact, if you did hear about them, you're likely to think that they could not possibly be real. But they are. In episode 11, I told you the story of one of America's greatest codebreakers of World War II, Elizabeth Smith. Today we're stepping into the other side of the intelligence game, the more shadowy world of espionage, to uncover the incredible story of Virginia Hall, an American woman who became one of the most dangerous Allied spies of World War II. Known to the Gestapo as the Limping Lady, her courage and cunning changed the course of the war. So grab a seat as we travel back to Nazi-occupied France. But first, let's introduce our protagonist, Virginia Hall. She was born in 1906 in Baltimore, Maryland, to a well-to-do family with big expectations. She was raised to marry into privilege, but Virginia craved adventure. She once showed up to a school wearing a bracelet made of live snakes. Talk about a bold fashion statement. Fluent in 5 languages, including French, she dreamed of becoming a U.S. diplomat. But her life took a dramatic turn in 1933 when a hunting accident in Turkey led to the amputation of the lower half of her left leg. She was fitted with a prosthetic leg that she named Cuthbert, a nod to her resilience and humor. The U.S. State Department, however, rejected her for diplomatic service because of her disability, a decision that would lead her to a far more extraordinary and exciting path. When World War II broke out, Virginia was in France. She volunteered to drive ambulances for the French army after witnessing the Nazi invasion firsthand. Her passion for France and hatred for Nazi oppression set her on a collision course with destiny. As Sonia Purnell writes in A Woman of No Importance, Virginia's time in Paris during her 20s, immersed in its vibrant culture, left a lasting love for France that fueled her wartime efforts. By 1941, Virginia had joined the British Special Operations Executive, or SOE, a secret organization tasked with sabotaging Nazi operations. Her cover? A journalist for the New York Post. She arrived in Lyon, France, in August of 1941, becoming one of the first female SOE agents to operate in Nazi-occupied territory. Lyon was a hotbed of resistance, and Virginia, codenamed Marie or sometimes Germaine, became its linchpin. She organized resistance networks, coordinated airdrops of weapons and supplies, and helped down Allied pilots escape. Her disability made her an unlikely spy, but she turned it to her advantage. Disguised as an elderly milkmaid, she dyed her hair gray and shuffled to hide her limp, blending into the countryside while evading Nazi detection. The Gestapo, aware of a mysterious, quote, woman with a limp, plastered wanted posters across France, calling her the most dangerous of all Allied spies. One of her most daring feats was the Mozac prison break in 1942. Virginia orchestrated the escape of 12 resistance fighters from a heavily guarded camp using smuggled tools and meticulous planning. As Purnell notes, this escape was a spectacular display of her cunning and courage, with all 12 making it back to Britain. The Nazis, including the notorious Klaus Barbie, the Butcher of Lyon, were desperate to capture her, mistakenly believing she was Canadian. Barbie reported, "I'd give anything to lay my hands on that Canadian expletive." Virginia's time in Lyon came to an abrupt end in November of 1942 when the Germans occupied Vichy, France, after the Allied invasion of North Africa. With the Gestapo closing in, she faced a grueling escape. She trekked over the Pyrenees Mountains into Spain, on foot, with Cuthbert, her prosthetic leg, causing her great pain. When she radioed London about Cuthbert's issues, they replied, quote, "If Cuthbert is giving you difficulty, have him eliminated." Virginia's response? She kept going. After 6 weeks in a Spanish prison due to lack of papers, she was released and made her way to London. Undeterred, Virginia joined the American Office of Special Services, or OSS. the precursor to the CIA. In 1944, she returned to France, this time in the Haute-Loire region. Disguised as an elderly peasant with the codename Diane, she continued her work, mapping drop zones for supplies, training 3 battalions of French resistance fighters, and reporting German troop movements. Her efforts were critical after D-Day, as her networks disrupted Nazi supply lines. According to some, her team was credited with capturing 500 Germans and killing 150, a testament to her effectiveness as a leader. By September of 1944, as American troops liberated her region, Virginia's time as a field operative ended, but her legacy was just beginning. Virginia Hall's contributions were monumental, yet she shunned the spotlight. In 1945, President Harry S. Truman wanted to award her the Distinguished Service Cross, the only time it was given to a civilian woman in World War II. True to her, quote, quiet professional ethos, Virginia requested a private ceremony receiving the medal from the OSS chief, Wild Bill Donovan, with only her mother present. She later joined the CIA, though her post-war career faced resistance from desk-bound officials who undervalued her field experience. Virginia died in 1982, her story largely untold until recent years. Books like Purnell's A Woman of No Importance and podcasts like the Smithsonian's Side Door have brought her legacy to light. She wasn't just a spy. She was a trailblazer who defied disability, gender barriers, and being hunted by Nazis to become a hero. Her story reminds us that courage often comes from the most unexpected places. Virginia Hall, the Limping Lady, showed us what it means to fight against impossible odds. If you want to learn more about Virginia, check out Sonia Purnell's book or the Side Door podcast episode called The Milkmaid Spy. Keep an eye out, or rather an ear out, because in a future episode I'm going to discuss another audacious spy for the Allies, Phyllis Latour. These women risked more than just their lives fighting the Nazis. If they were caught, their fate would have been worse than death. For our True Heroes segment today, I chose a Medal of Honor recipient who also risked a fate worse than death if he were captured. For this hero's story, we're traveling back to the Civil War to uncover the remarkable story of William H. Carney, the first African American to earn the Medal of Honor. His tale is one of bravery, resilience, and an unyielding commitment to freedom. It's 1840 in Norfolk, Virginia. William Harvey Carney is born into slavery, a system that dehumanized millions. But Carney's story doesn't stay there. His father, also named William, escaped bondage and secured freedom for his family through the Underground Railroad, a network of secret routes and safe houses. By the 1850s, young William and his family are living in New Bedford, Massachusetts, a hub of abolitionist activity. According to the National Park Service, Carney briefly pursued becoming a minister, but felt a stronger pull to serve his country when the Civil War erupted. Now, the Civil War wasn't just about preserving the Union. It was a fight for freedom, especially for African Americans like Carney. In 1863, he joined the 54th Massachusetts Volunteer Infantry, one of the first black regiments in the Union Army. This was a big deal. The 54th was a symbol of hope, proving black soldiers could fight as fiercely as anyone. You might remember them from the movie Glory. That's the regiment we're talking about. Carney was 23, a sergeant, and deeply proud of his role. But being a black soldier wasn't easy. They faced prejudice from some white Union soldiers and were paid less than their counterparts, $10 a month compared to $13 for white soldiers, as noted by historian David Yacovone. Yet, the 54th was determined to prove their worth, and their chance came on 18 July 1863 at the Battle of Fort Wagner, near Charleston, South Carolina. Fort Wagner was a beast, a Confederate stronghold on a sandy island surrounded by marshes and bristling with cannons. The 54th was tasked with leading a near impossible assault. As they charged across the narrow beach, they were met with a hail of bullets and artillery. It was chaos. The regiment's commander, Colonel Robert Gould Shaw, Matthew Broderick's character in Glory, was killed, and hundreds of his comrades fell. But then, something extraordinary happened. During the charge, the soldier carrying the American flag, the regimental colors, was shot down. In the Civil War, the flag was more than a symbol. It was a rallying point. Losing it could break a unit's spirits. William Carney, despite the danger, grabbed the flag before it hit the ground. According to the Congressional Medal of Honor Society, Carney pressed forward, planting the flag on the fort's parapet, while under relentless enemy fire. He was wounded, shot in the legs, chest, and arm, but he held that flag high, refusing to let it fall. Imagine the scene. Bullets whizzing, men screaming, Carney bleeding and exhausted, clutching the stars and stripes like it was the embodiment of freedom itself. When the 54th was forced to retreat, Carney crawled back, still holding the flag, and when he reached Union lines, he reportedly said, "Boys, I only did my duty. The old flag never touched the ground." That line, recorded in historical accounts, gives me chills every time I hear it. Carney's actions weren't just brave. They were historic. His stand at Fort Wagner showed the world what black soldiers were capable of, challenging the racism of the era. But here's the kicker. He didn't receive the Medal of Honor right away. In fact, it took 37 years, until 23 May 1900, for his heroism to be officially recognized. Why the delay? Well, racism within the Army at the time played a part, as did bureaucratic red tape. Many black soldiers' contributions were often overlooked, but Carney's persistence and the advocacy of his comrades eventually secured his place in history. After the war, Carney returned to New Bedford, worked as a postal carrier, and even served as a lighthouse keeper for a while. It's a pretty cool gig for the time. He became a community leader, often speaking at veterans events and sharing his story. He passed away in 1908, but his legacy lives on. The National Park Service notes that his home in New Bedford is now a historic site, a testament to his impact. So why does William H. Carney's story matter today? It's more than a war story. It's about standing up for what's right, even when the odds are stacked against you. Carney fought not just for the Union, but for the future where freedom and equality could be real for everyone. His courage at Fort Wagner helped pave the way for civil rights, showing that heroism knows no color. As I wrap up with William Carney's life, I encourage you to dig a little deeper into it. Check out the Congressional Medal of Honor Society's website or visit the New Bedford Historical Society for more on his legacy. Next time you see the American flag, think of William H. Carney, the man who kept it flying through one of the darkest nights of the Civil War. When I was in the Air Force, one of the schools I had to go through as an aviator was the Air Force Survival School. A portion of that training was called resistance training. Basically, they taught you how to react if you were captured by an enemy. At the end of that phase, we turned and saw Old Glory flying, and the sentiment of Carney that, quote, the stars and stripes was the embodiment of freedom itself, definitely hit home. And, well, I know it sounds a bit hokey, but maybe that's one of the reasons why I'm celebrating these heroes today. In any case, this brings us to the end of another episode of Random History. I hope you enjoyed it and will come back and listen to future episodes. If you'd like to view the transcript or sources for the episode, just click on the link in the description. You can also make suggestions for future topics by clicking that same link or shooting us an email. As always, I want to thank Argos Media for producing Random History, and to thank my wife for her continued support and inspiration. And until next time, make some history of your own. Navigator out.